Chosen one, the universe is screaming your name right now. Something massive is unfolding, and it's connected to a warning you gave months ago. Remember that conversation? The one where you told your ex about that third party they were so eager to run toward. Your intuition was firing on all cylinders, but they wouldn't listen. They chose greed over guidance. They chose fake promises over your authentic love. Now that very person you warned them about has become their living nightmare. The manipulation you predicted is destroying them piece by piece. The financial promises turned into debt traps. The passionate romance became emotional prison. Everything you saw coming with crystal clarity has manifested exactly as you knew it would. This isn't coincidence. This is divine confirmation that your spiritual sight was never wrong. The energy shifts you're feeling right now are connected to this cosmic revelation. Your chakras are buzzing because divine justice is activating ancient contracts. Your ancestors are celebrating because their bloodline has been vindicated. The spiritual realm is acknowledging that one of their chosen vessels stayed true to the light, even when darkness tried to seduce everyone around them. First, let's acknowledge the painful truth about what they chose over you. When they walked away, it wasn't just about love bulge. It was about choosing illusion over truth. You were healing, growing, becoming the person who could weather any storm. You brought balance to their chaos. You offered them security built on genuine foundation. But they saw your temporary financial struggles and decided you weren't enough. They saw someone else flashing money and status, and suddenly your authentic support meant nothing. This person you loved chose what looked easy over what was real. They chose the quick fix over the long-term investment. They traded your nurturing energy for someone who promised them shortcuts to success. The third party came in with all the right words, all the shiny distractions, all the fake luxury that made their eyes light up with greed. But you knew something was wrong. Your spirit was screaming warnings about this individual. You tried to tell them. You saw through the facade. You recognized the manipulation tactics, the love bombing followed by control. The way this person was using wealth as a weapon to steal someone's heart. You watched your ex get pulled deeper into this web. And you spoke up because you still cared about their well-being. The energy you felt around this third party was dark and consuming. You sensed the way they drained light from everything they touched. You picked up on the subtle ways they isolated their targets from support systems. You felt the spiritual heaviness that followed them like a shadow. Your empathic abilities were picking up signals that your ex couldn't detect because they were blinded by surface-level attractions. What made this betrayal even more painful was watching your ex transform into someone you didn't recognize. The person who once valued your spiritual insights suddenly dismissed everything sacred you shared together. They started speaking the third party's language of materialism and surface-level success. They began judging your worth by bank account balances instead of soul depth. Your ex was operating from scarcity mindset. They looked at their bills and saw you as someone who couldn't provide the instant relief they craved. They looked at this third party and saw dollar signs instead of red flags. Fear of financial struggle made them deaf to spiritual wisdom. They wanted someone to rescue them instead of building something together through temporary hardship. The third party knew exactly how to exploit this weakness. They came in throwing money around, picking up tabs, offering to help with responsibilities. They made themselves look like the answer to every prayer while slowly tightening the chains of dependency. They used generosity as manipulation, creating obligations that would be called in later. Meanwhile, you represented the harder path. You represented building something real from the ground up. You represented facing challenges together instead of running toward false promises. Your love required them to grow, to trust the process, to believe in something they couldn't see yet, but they wanted immediate gratification, not spiritual development. The universe was testing their ability to recognize authentic versus artificial. They failed that test spectacularly. They chose the glittering trap over the golden opportunity. They chose the person who would use them over the person who would build with them. What they didn't realize was that this third party had been studying them for months. This wasn't a chance encounter or natural attraction. This was a calculated campaign designed to steal someone's soul. The third party had observed their vulnerabilities, their triggers, their dreams, and crafted the perfect persona to exploit every weakness. They became whoever your ex needed them to be in that moment of desperation. The third party also understood psychological programming techniques that most people don't recognize. They used intermittent reinforcement to create addiction-like attachment. They alternated between overwhelming generosity and calculated withdrawal to keep your ex constantly chasing validation. They employed gaslighting techniques so subtle that your ex began questioning their own memory of events. This person was a professional manipulator who had perfected their craft on multiple victims before targeting your ex. They knew exactly which emotional buttons to push and when to push them. They understood how to make someone feel chosen and special while simultaneously undermining their self-worth. They were a master of creating trauma bonds that would be difficult to break. Everything you predicted is coming true with devastating accuracy. That financial security they thought they were getting, it was a loan shark arrangement in disguise. Those generous gifts came with strings attached that are now choking them. The person who seemed so wealthy was actually living off credit cards and borrowed money, building a house of lies that was destined to collapse. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. The emotional manipulation you warned them about has intensified beyond anything they imagined. This third party doesn't just argue about money. They attack their partner's self-worth daily. They create crisis after crisis to keep them too stressed to think clearly. They isolate them from friends and family who might offer perspective. They've turned love into a battlefield where your ex can never win. The infidelity you sensed is now an open secret. This person they chose for security has been cheating from the beginning. They've been playing multiple people using the same financial manipulation tactics on several victims simultaneously. Your ex discovered messages, photos, evidence of betrayal that shattered their remaining illusions about who they chose to trust. Now they're trapped in a situation that's destroying them financially, emotionally, and spiritually. The debts are mounting. The lies are multiplying. The person they thought would elevate them is actually dragging them down into a pit of chaos and desperation. They're learning the hard way that shortcuts to success usually lead to dead ends filled with suffering. The physical toll is becoming visible. The stress of living with a master manipulator has aged them beyond their years. They've lost weight from anxiety, gained weight from depression, developed health issues from constant emotional warfare. The vibrant person you once knew is being systematically destroyed by someone who feeds off other people's life force. Chomp and the legal complications are beginning to surface as well. The third party's financial schemes are catching up with them, and your ex is being dragged into investigations they never saw coming. Their name is attached to debts they didn't create and contracts they didn't fully understand. The person they thought would provide security has made them an accessory to financial crimes. The social consequences are rippling outward as well. Mutual friends are witnessing the chaos and starting to distance themselves from the drama. Your ex's professional reputation is suffering as the stress affects their work performance. Their family relationships are strained because the third party has systematically poisoned those connections through lies and manipulation. Even their living situation has become unstable. The home they thought they were building together is actually in the third party's name only. They're discovering that they have no legal protection in this relationship that was supposed to provide security. They could be thrown out at any moment with nothing to show for their investment of time, energy, and resources. This isn't just about being right. This is about divine justice playing out in real time. The Most High is showing everyone involved who had the true vision and who was operating from delusion. Your ability to see through masks and recognize authentic energy has been proven beyond any doubt. The spiritual gift that your ex dismissed as paranoia has been validated by their lived experience. The contrast is becoming undeniable. While they're drowning in the consequences of choosing artificial over authentic, you've been rising. Your life has been improving steadily because you stayed aligned with truth instead of chasing illusions. You invested in your own growth instead of trying to rescue someone who didn't value your insight. Their nightmare is revealing your light. Every day they spend trapped in that toxic situation is another day that proves you were the blessing. Every betrayal, every financial crisis they endure is testimony to the peace and prosperity they could have had if they'd chosen differently. The universe doesn't make mistakes when it comes to divine justice. The person who warned them with love is flourishing. The person who manipulated them with false promises is showing their true destructive nature. The natural consequences of their choice are teaching them lessons they refused to learn when you offered them freely. Even mutual friends and family members are starting to see the truth you spoke from the beginning. The people who once questioned your motives are now witnessing the exact scenarios you predicted playing out in real time. Your reputation as someone with genuine spiritual sight is being established through the accuracy of your warnings. The synchronicities are becoming impossible to ignore. Numbers that held significance in your relationship keep appearing in their crisis situations. Songs you used to share come on the radio during their lowest moments. Dreams they once dismissed as meaningless are now proving prophetic. The universe is speaking your vindication through every available channel. Your spiritual growth during this period has been exponential because you chose to trust divine timing over human impulses. While others might have gloated or sought revenge, you maintained your frequency and allowed cosmic justice to handle the situation. This spiritual maturity has opened doors to blessings that wouldn't have been available if you'd operated from lower consciousness. Some people have to touch the fire to believe it burns. Your ex needed to experience the full weight of choosing illusion over truth. They needed to feel the difference between someone who loved them despite temporary struggles and someone who used their vulnerabilities as weapons. This painful experience is forcing them to develop the spiritual discernment they lacked when they made their choice. The betrayal they're experiencing is cracking open their heart in ways that will eventually let real love in. The financial devastation is teaching them that security built on lies always crumbles. The emotional manipulation is showing them the difference between authentic care and calculated control. This isn't about punishment. This is about education. The universe is using their poor choice as a teaching tool that will serve them for the rest of their life. They'll never again mistake manipulation for love. They'll never again choose flashy promises over steady support. They'll never again dismiss spiritual warnings from people who truly care about their well-being. The breakdown they're experiencing is preparation for their breakthrough. Sometimes souls need to be completely shattered before they can be rebuilt on a foundation of wisdom instead of wishful thinking. Their current suffering is the price of learning lessons they couldn't accept when they were offered gently. This experience is also teaching them about the reality of spiritual warfare. They're discovering that not everyone who enters their life comes with good intentions. They're learning to recognize energy vampires, soul thieves, and spiritual predators who disguise themselves as saviors. This awareness will protect them from similar situations in the future. Trumpy, the humiliation they're experiencing is burning away false pride that prevented them from receiving wisdom. Sometimes the ego must be completely destroyed before the soul can emerge. They're learning that material success means nothing if it comes at the cost of spiritual integrity. They're discovering that authentic love is more valuable than artificial abundance. Their current isolation is forcing them to develop a relationship with their own inner guidance. For too long, they relied on external validation to make decisions. Now stripped of all the false voices, they're being forced to listen to the still small voice within that you always encourage them to trust. Watching someone you love make destructive choices and ignore your guidance has forged you into someone stronger. You've learned to trust your intuition even when others can't see what you see. You've learned to speak truth even when it's unwelcome. You've learned to let people experience the consequences of their choices instead of trying to rescue them from their own lessons. This experience taught you the difference between loving someone and enabling their poor decisions. You offered wisdom, they rejected it, and you learned to step back and let divine justice handle the situation. You discovered that your job is to shine light, not force people to see it. You realize that real love sometimes means allowing people to learn from their mistakes instead of cushioning every fall. Your spiritual sight has been sharpened through this trial. You can now recognize manipulative energy from miles away. You can spot artificial prosperity and fake love before they even fully reveal themselves. You've developed the ability to see through facades that fool most people because you paid attention to the subtle signs that others ignore. The peace you feel now comes from knowing you handled this situation with integrity. You warned them because you cared, not because you wanted to control them. You stepped back because you respected their free will, not because you stopped caring. You've learned to love people enough to let them experience the natural consequences of their choices. This transformation has elevated your entire energetic frequency. You've learned to detach from outcomes while still caring about people's well-being. You've mastered the art of offering guidance without attachment to whether it's received. You've developed the spiritual maturity to watch divine justice unfold without needing to participate in anyone's downfall. The financial abundance that has been flowing into your life during their crisis isn't coincidence. The universe rewards those who choose truth over comfortable lies. The opportunities that have been opening for you are direct compensation for the blessing you would have shared with them. What they rejected as insufficient has multiplied in your hands because you remained faithful to your path. Your healing abilities have strengthened through this experience as well. Other people are now seeking your counsel because they recognize the wisdom you carry. Your spiritual reputation is growing because those who witness your discernment want to learn from your insight. We've become a beacon of light for others who are trying to navigate similar spiritual tests. Tobias, this wasn't just a love triangle. This was a battle between light and darkness for someone's soul. You represented the path of spiritual growth and authentic love. The third party represented the path of material attachment and spiritual bondage. Your ex had to choose which energy they wanted to align with, and they chose the lower vibration. The person who came between you wasn't just attracted to your ex's potential. They were specifically targeting someone who had access to genuine spiritual guidance through you. Dark forces often work through people who can seduce souls away from their divine path. This third party was an instrument of spiritual warfare designed to pull your ex away from the elevation they could have experienced with you. Your warnings weren't just relationship advice. They were spiritual warfare tactics. You were fighting for someone's soul without them even realizing a battle was taking place. You were trying to protect them from an energy vampire who saw their light and wanted to drain it. You were standing guard against forces that would use love as a weapon to create spiritual bondage. The fact that everything you predicted came true proves you were operating from divine insight, not human jealousy. The accuracy of your spiritual sight demonstrates that you were connected to higher wisdom that could see the true nature of what was really happening. You were serving as a guardian angel, trying to prevent someone from walking into a trap. Vindication to Debans, to Dean, divide and reel you jealousy plead, jealousy and initiate 'em. They whispered that you were just jealous, just bitter, just unable to let go, but you held firm to what your spirit was telling you. And now the universe is vindicating your spiritual discernment in ways that silence every doubt. The third party was likely connected to generational curses or ancestral patterns of deception. Some people carry spiritual assignments to destroy others through seduction and manipulation. They're unconscious agents of darkness who specialize in identifying light-bearers and corrupting their paths. Your ex became a target because of their connection to your spiritual frequency. The protection rituals and prayers you performed during this time created spiritual barriers that prevented the darkness from completely consuming your ex. Even though they chose poorly, your intercession limited the damage they could experience. Your spiritual warfare on their behalf is part of why they're still alive, to learn these lessons instead of being completely destroyed. The universe waited until now to fully expose this situation because everyone involved needed to be ready for the truth. Your ex needed to experience enough consequences to be open to receiving the lesson. The third party needed to reveal their true nature completely, so there could be no doubt about their intentions. You needed to be strong enough in your own growth to witness their downfall without being pulled back into trying to rescue them. This revelation is happening now because it's part of your spiritual graduation. You're being shown the fruits of trusting your intuition and staying aligned with truth, that the universe rewards those who choose authentic paths over convenient ones. You're witnessing divine justice in action as confirmation that righteousness is never in vain. The timing also serves as protection for you. If this exposure had happened earlier, you might have been tempted to go back and try to help them clean up the mess. But now, you're strong enough to observe their situation with compassion while maintaining healthy boundaries. You can feel satisfied about being right, without feeling responsible for fixing what they broke. This is also perfect timing for the collective awakening happening on Earth right now. Many chosen ones are experiencing similar situations, where their spiritual insight is being validated through dramatic revelations. The universe is showing all light workers that their gifts are real, and their guidance should be trusted, even when others can't see what they see. The exposure is also happening at a time when your ex has burned enough bridges that they can't easily escape their situation. The third party has systematically isolated them from support systems, making it harder for them to leave even as they realize the truth of what they've gotten themselves into. This creates the perfect conditions for deep soul learning. The cosmic alignments during this period are amplifying the lessons being learned. Mercury retrograde periods have been bringing hidden information to light. Eclipse seasons have been forcing buried truths to surface. Solar storms have been clearing old programming that kept people trapped in illusion. The universe is using every available energy to wake people up to reality. Your own spiritual calendar has been perfectly aligned with this revelation as well. The personal year you're in supports letting go of old patterns and embracing new levels of truth. Your birthday cycles have been clearing karmic debts related to this relationship. Your spiritual initiations have been preparing you to handle this vindication with grace and wisdom. You didn't just give relationship advice. You went to war for someone's spiritual well-being. You saw forces of deception targeting someone you cared about, and you spoke up knowing they might reject your warning. You chose to be the voice of truth, even though it made you look like the jealous exarchy. You prioritized their spiritual protection over your own comfort. This makes you a warrior in the truest sense. Warriors fight battles that others don't even know are happening. Warriors protect people who don't always appreciate the protection. Warriors speak hard truths that people don't want to hear. Warriors stand alone when necessary to defend what's right. You demonstrated all of these qualities when you tried to warn them about what was coming. The fact that you're not gloating over their downfall proves your heart was pure in your intentions. A lesser person would be celebrating their suffering as revenge, but you're processing this with the wisdom of someone who genuinely wanted to spare them pain. You're observing divine justice with the mature understanding that everyone involved is learning necessary lessons. Your spiritual weapons were love, truth, and wisdom. You fought with insight instead of manipulation. You battled with genuine care instead of selfish control. You stood your ground with authenticity instead of artifice. This is how real spiritual warriors operate. And the universe has rewarded your integrity with vindication. The armor you wore in this battle was faith in divine justice and trust in your own spiritual gifts. When they attacked your character for speaking truth, you didn't retaliate with equal darkness. When they dismissed your warnings as jealousy, you didn't stop caring about their well-being. You maintained your spiritual frequency even under fire. The wounds you sustained in this spiritual battle have healed into wisdom scars that make you stronger. Every insult they threw at you for trying to protect them has been transformed into increased discernment. Every moment of doubt you experienced about your spiritual sight has been converted into unshakable faith in your gifts. The victory you're experiencing now isn't just personal vindication. It's a victory for all spiritual warriors who have been dismissed, ridiculed, or rejected for speaking truth. Your courage to trust your spiritual sight despite opposition has inspired other chosen ones to trust their own gifts. Your willingness to stand alone for truth has given others permission to do the same. The breakdown they're experiencing is breaking the spell that kept them trapped in illusion. Every day they spend in that nightmare situation is another day they remember what peace felt like with you. Every betrayal they discover is another reminder of your loyalty. Every financial crisis they face is another moment they appreciate the security you offered. The third party's true nature is being revealed so thoroughly that your ex will never again be able to romanticize what they chose over you. They're seeing firsthand the difference between someone who uses love as manipulation and someone who offers love as nourishment. They're experiencing the contrast between artificial prosperity and authentic abundance. This crisis is forcing them to develop the spiritual discernment they should have used when choosing between you and the third party. They're learning to recognize red flags they ignored before. They're developing the ability to see through facades that once fooled them completely. They're building immunity to the manipulation tactics that once controlled them. Their current suffering is preparing them to eventually make better choices. Whether that includes recognizing your value and trying to reconnect, or simply applying these lessons to future relationships, they're being transformed through this experience. The pain they're experiencing now is the price of wisdom they refused to accept when it was offered gently. The isolation they're experiencing is also creating space for them to hear their own inner voice again. The third party's constant noise and chaos kept them from connecting with their intuition. Now, in the silence of their desperation, they're starting to remember what their own spirit was trying to tell them all along. The memories of your relationship that they suppressed are beginning to surface with new clarity. They're remembering conversations where you offered them the very wisdom they needed to avoid this situation. They're recalling moments when your presence brought them peace that they can't find anywhere else. They're recognizing that the stability you provided was worth more than the excitement the third party promised. Hold that thought for a moment. I need your attention for something very important. We're revealing everything we know about personal power, healing yourself and healing others through weekly Zoom call. No filters, no holding back. We have been quietly adding all the occult secrets we've collected over literal years of spiritual practice. The techniques and wisdom that transformed us from controlled pawns into conscious creators are now available to those ready to walk the same path. This is your invitation to join Obsidian Inner Order and support our platform so we can continue growing our megaphone to reach other chosen ones waiting for activation. By joining the Obsidian Inner Order, you're not just gaining access to forbidden knowledge, you're becoming part of a movement that's rewriting reality itself. It's a 360 win for all of us. Link is in the description. The financial stress they're experiencing is teaching them to value security over status symbols. They're learning that someone who offers steady support during difficult times is more valuable than someone who provides temporary luxury followed by devastating consequences. They're discovering that authentic abundance grows slowly but lasts, while artificial prosperity disappears as quickly as it arrives. While it felt like loss when they chose someone else over you, the universe was actually protecting you from having to carry someone who wasn't ready for your level of spiritual development. You needed a partner who could match your intuitive gifts, not someone who would dismiss your spiritual sight as paranoia. You needed someone who would trust your guidance, not someone who would choose illusion over your truth. If they had stayed with you while still operating from scarcity mindset and spiritual blindness, they would have held back your own growth. You would have spent precious energy trying to convince them to value things they couldn't appreciate. you would have been constantly fighting battles against their doubt instead of building an empire with their faith. The universe moved them out of your path because greater love was coming. Someone who could recognize your spiritual gifts from the beginning was waiting for you to be available. Someone who would seek your guidance instead of rejecting your warnings was preparing to enter your life. Someone who would choose you first, instead of making you compete with illusions, was getting ready to find you. Their poor choice freed you to become the version of yourself who would attract the right person. Their decision to chase fake prosperity cleared the way for real abundance to flow into your life. Their choice to ignore your spiritual insight made room for someone who would treasure your divine connection. The energy you would have wasted trying to convince them of truths they weren't ready to receive has been redirected toward your own spiritual advancement. The time you would have spent managing their doubts has been invested in developing your gifts. The resources you would have used trying to rescue them from poor choices have been channeled into building your created by staying in that relationship has been cleared. Sometimes we're meant to love someone enough to let them learn lessons we can't teach them. Your willingness to step back when they chose poorly actually freed both of your souls from patterns that would have kept you stuck in lower vibrations. The divine connections that have entered your life since this separation are proof that the universe was making space for better matches. The opportunities that have opened are evidence that your energy is now available for higher purposes. The peace you feel is confirmation that you're aligned with your true path, instead of trying to force someone else onto theirs. This entire situation was a test of your spiritual strength, and you passed with flying colors. You maintained your integrity while watching someone choose deception over truth. You offered guidance without trying to control the outcome. You stepped back with grace when your warnings were rejected. You've grown stronger while watching others learn painful lessons about the consequences of poor choices. The universe has proven that your spiritual sight is accurate and your intuitive guidance should be trusted. You've been shown that staying aligned with truth leads to elevation, while chasing illusions leads to devastation. You've experienced divine justice in action as confirmation that righteousness is never in vain. Now you stand vindicated, elevated, and protected. The person who dismissed your warnings is trapped in the nightmare you tried to help them avoid. The person who seemed to offer them everything they wanted has revealed themselves as everything you said they were. The choice that seemed like your loss has proven to be your divine protection. Moving forward, trust your spiritual sight with even more confidence. When you see manipulation, call it out. When you sense deception, speak up. When you recognize artificial prosperity, expose it. Your gift of discernment is a weapon against forces that try to seduce souls away from their divine path. Remember this moment when other people dismiss your spiritual insight. Remember this vindication when others choose illusion over your truth. Remember this divine justice when you're tempted to doubt your own intuitive gifts. You are a chosen one with access to wisdom that protects both you and those humble enough to receive it. The nightmare your ex is living proves your words were prophetic. The blessing your life has become proves your choices were wise. The contrast between their crisis and your peace proves that choosing truth over illusion always leads to elevation. You are vindicated, chosen one, and the universe is applauding your spiritual victory. Your story is being written in the stars as an example for other chosen ones who will face similar tests. Your courage to speak truth in the face of rejection is inspiring other spiritual warriors to trust their gifts. Your willingness to let divine justice handle the situation instead of seeking personal revenge is teaching others how to operate from higher consciousness. The crown you wear now is made of wisdom earned through fire. The authority you carry comes from being tested and proven faithful. The peace you feel is the reward for choosing truth over comfort, wisdom over popularity, divine justice over personal vindication. You have graduated from this spiritual lesson with honors, chosen one, and greater battles await your victory. The legacy you're creating through this experience will ripple through generations. Children who haven't been born yet will benefit from the spiritual strength you've developed. Communities that don't exist yet will be transformed by the wisdom you've gained. The light you've maintained through this darkness will illuminate paths for countless souls who will face similar choices. Your vindication is complete. Your victory is sealed and your destiny is secured. The universe has spoken your name with honor. The ancestors have claimed you with pride. And the future generations have received your gift of uncompromising truth. You are a chosen one who chose correctly, and all of creation is celebrating your spiritual triumph.